Irvine Sellar, this is quite a story, began your career as a retailer in the 1960s, and now he's literally sitting on top of London with his project, The Shard, at 310 meters, which is one of the tallest buildings in Europe. It's an amazing story. How did you become involved in this? What was your part in this? And are you satisfied with the way it's come out?
Number of questions there. I won't talk about the retail beginning, but that brought me into development because we were expanding rapidly in the 70s, and I had a fashion group which was very well known then. And due to our expansion, we had quite an intense and heavy property department because of our developments that were taking place. And I moved into, it wasn't a difficult transition from retail to development.
You say that you invented the Shard. Tell me about that.
Well, I bought a building in November 1998, which was an investment. We bought it for an investment purposes because we are a property company. We own property, we own portfolios, we trade portfolios, and we hold them for purely income purposes. And we develop. And we develop anything from retail parks to office buildings to retail centres across the board. We bought Southwark Towers, as I said, purely as an investment property in November 1998. It was leased to PricewaterhouseCoopers as their head office, 24-storey building. After we bought it, some months after we bought it, a government white paper emerged which said we will encourage high-density buildings providing they're close to transport hubs. Well, this building sat yards away from London Bridge Station, third busiest transport hub in London. So our idea from holding this as an investment property to a redevelopment opportunity came then. That's what I mean by inventing it. And we originally worked on some schemes, redevelopment schemes, which tore down the existing building. And I think our original concept was a building which is taller than the one today, 400 metres. Drawn up initially by a local London firm of architects. But we realised shortly afterwards, unless we produced something and engaged a world-class architect, we really wouldn't get through the very difficult planning process that you need to in London, particularly breaking all the barriers. So that's how it started. I met with Renzo Piano. I shared my views with him on what I wanted. I liked the idea of a vertical town, lots of uses. For me, commercially it spreads risk. He liked it too because he felt it's a building that could be open to the public. And he looked at what I produced and he certainly didn't like it, but he began to sketch his ideas and I loved it. And that's how we connected. And that was in May 2000. We met in Berlin. He was exhibiting there. This all took place over lunch during a restaurant. And that's what started, if you like. Well, it started a little bit before that, but that's what I mean by being there at the beginning.
How many design changes were made on that? What was the original design like, and how did that evolve?
Nothing. The original design went straight away into the waste paper basket. We didn't try and work around that. It was turn a new page and start again. The factors that we liked were the multi-use, vertical town, but quite a different design. We did. My architect got his inspiration from the energy of the rail lines because it is a third busiest station in the UK, and the beauty of the river. And he did that. He sketched on the back of the menu. I've told this many times, this story, and within about 30 seconds, I saw the dream be. He drew my dream. In other words, I saw what he wanted to do and what I wanted, but I couldn't express it in that way he did. And we shook hands and worked for 14 years. We're still working together on it because although it's complete PC's taken place, there's still and the sister building, which I'll mention, is same DNA, same architect, a major building, head HQ building, 17 stories in height and 600,000 gross square foot. It's an HQ building. So two sit opposite each other and they make up for the nucleus, what we call London Bridge Quarter. And gradually, we own other buildings. We will expand those other buildings and create a very important new district for London called London Bridge Quarter.
Back in the 90s, there was a proposal, a Millennium Tower proposal. Was that the one that you were referring to, 400 meters?
No.
Because there was at least one proposal, and now I'm hearing another for a super tall building in London. A lot of people never thought that a 1,000-foot, 300-meter building would be built. What kind of sales job did you have to do to change
Well, first of
attitudes?
all, you can't build higher at the moment. You've got a glass ceiling created by air traffic control and CAA of 1,000 foot. So you can't go higher than that. What sort of difficulties do we have to go through? Well, we carried out over 300 separate presentations on our development ideas to all the local stakeholders, local politicians, residents, over a matter of 18 months. We had the planning application heard in Southwark, which was 2002, I think, April 2002. And we obtained planning consent or a resolution to grant consent. Then it has to be reviewed, and inevitably, I suppose, it was called in for a public inquiry. And that's a different story altogether to the normal planning process. It's 10 times harder to get a good result from that. So we worked for 9 months to prepare for the public inquiry, which took place in April 2003. We set out the inquiry room like a television studio. There were 150 CGIs strategically placed, which showed the judge, call him the judge, who really handles the inquiry, the impact of views, because in London you've got to protect certain viewing corridors, and there are many of them, from Westminster Palaces of Westminster, St Paul's Cathedral, and what have you. So you have to ensure that your design does not intrude impact or whatever on that. So we produced these 150 CGIs and set out the planning room like a television studio. And that took a number of weeks. We didn't get a result until November that year, and we did, and we got unlimited planning consent from the Office of the Deputy Prime Minister.
Very media-savvy approach. The other project that you wanted to talk about in the same neighborhood is The Place.
Yeah, which I have just now.
Which is that one. Are these kind of seeds for further development in that area?
Yes.
How do you see that rolling out?
We have other property in that area that will be developed over a period of time. But we're not the only developers in that area, or not the only buildings in that area. The immediate area, London Bridge, is buzzing with edgy life. The indigenous population are young, the restaurants are good, the lifestyle is good. Borough Market is probably the best food market in the country. You've got, along that stretch, you've got the Globe Theatre, you've got the Tate Modern, you've got the Unicorn Theatre, all on the South Bank. It's full of culture, full of history, and full of life. And when we complete the two buildings and Thames Link complete their further work at London Bridge, because they're extending it, there'll be, at the moment, there are 50 million passenger trips a year through London Bridge. In 3 years' time, when Thames Link complete, and it's their figures, not mine, that number will increase to 75 million passenger trips a year. It's bigger than Heathrow. So, location. What a location. And what views. You've got the whole of the river. I don't know if you've seen it, I don't know if you've been there, but if you haven't, you should.
An amazing project, and we're going to be there later tonight.
Then you'll see
for
for
a
yourself.
reception, and can't wait. Irvine Sellar from Sellar Property Group in London. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.